Thank you, friend, for joining me today. From my vantage point of understanding and study of the 1957 book by Leroy Edwin Fromm, Questions on Doctrine, it is apparent to me that Leroy Edwin Fromm is representing or reframing the views of the pioneers, especially Ellen G. White, using her writing piece by piece to satisfy his own agenda. And this is what I call the counterfeit religion that is making an inroad to the Seventh Day Adventist Church in 1957. Thank you, friend, for your prayers and support for this ministry. Thank you so much for your trust and encouragement. I am very grateful for the opportunity to share this study with you today. Before I examine another question and answer from this document, Question on Doctrine 1957, I would like to invite you for a word of prayer. Our Father in heaven, thank you that we can have this freedom, though temporal and fragile. We still need to do our work to investigate and expose the corruption inside the Seventh-day Adventist Church in terms of doctrine. Oh, Father, may your sacred word be understood today. I pray in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen. So we are now reading this book, Questions on Doctrine 1957. And so far as I have been reading with you, truth and error is deeply mixed. And that if you do not understand the pioneers of the Seventh Day, and you do not understand who Leroy Edwin Fromm is, where he is coming from, then there is going to be a division and confusion among those who will take sides. And that is exactly what had happened, because this book has been very divisive. Although the majority became Trinitarians and voted Trinity in 1980, it does not show proof that God's favor was with the church. Yes, the church had been preaching the message worldwide, and the numbers have increased worldwide. It does not prove that the favor of God is with the church since 1957, 1980 until today. Why? Because the great evangelical movement also happened to go side by side, and the Roman Catholic Church increased their membership. The evangelicals had more so increased their membership, and the Seventh-day Adventists, even though they're they are fewer than the Roman Catholics and the Protestants or evangelicals or other religions, they are pacing with the world because of their Trinity doctrine. The acceptance of the Trinity doctrine lead to many who will not find it hard to enter into the Seventh-day Adventist Church. What fascinates me is that the Seventh-day Adventist pioneers were not as dogmatic in their requirement, especially as they published the Fundamental Principles of 1872. And this is the basis of this question on doctrine, the 1872, the 1889, and the writings of James White, Joseph Bates, Ellen G. White, and the rest of those pioneers. They were all in agreement to reject and rejected Trinity. They were non-Trinitarians. And this is a matter of fact. And Leroy Edwin Fromm, in his Reframing the Seventh-day Adventist Pioneers, using Ellen G. White's writing in a piece-by-piece meal to conform to World Council of Churches during those decades. Eventually, it did happen. So let us explore his question number 10. Remember, Leroy Edwin Fromm is asking a question which was derived from Walter Martin, in order for the Seventh-day Adventists not to be fitted and customized in the Kingdom of Cults book, that book by Walter Martin. And the Seventh-day Adventist pioneers, if they were alive at this time, they will not, in my estimation of their thoughts and their firmness of biblical stand, they will not even endeavor to ask or to appease an answer for the question of Walter Martin. This could have not had happened if the church had been faithful. Yet this man, Leroy Edwin Fromm, single-handedly asked a question as though he was defending the pioneers' view, but he was not. He was defending the evangelical view and want to reframe, want to restyle or retwist the pioneers' view. I found it, and I'm sharing this with you. So this is the question that Leroy Edwin Fromm wrote in his book, 1957, Question on Doctrine. And I believe it is being updated by the General Conference from time to time. Are not the spiritual content and evangelical emphasis of your Voice of Prophecy radio program and Faith for Today telecast, or rather far cry from the doctrinal legal core of Adventism? You see, during this time, they have been evangelicals in their presentation. And look at the question carefully. Read it carefully. So the effort to evangelize by the Seventh-day Adventists in 1950s is being questioned now that these are different from the doctrinal and legal core. Meaning to say, Leroy Edwin Fromm seemed to accept that the pioneers were legalist. He wants to show to Walter Martin that yes, they were legalist in their doctrines, but they slowly admitted, using Ellen G. White, that the church position was not legalist. Of course, the pioneers were not legalists. So this question should not be, in a matter of fact, being asked, because this is just creating confusion. The stand of the pioneers was their obedience to the law of God is not legalism. It is just a label, like Arius being labeled as believing that Jesus was created. The proof of the matter is opposite. The Seventh-day Adventist pioneers, James White, Joseph Bates, John Nevins Andrews, including Ellen G. White and the rest, they do not subscribe to being legalist in this sense, but it was just accusation by the evangelicals. So Leroy Edwin Fromm put this in his book. So why is it that it's different? You're preaching on the mass scale, and then your doctrine seems to be far cry gap. That should not even be a question, because the pure Seventh-day Adventist and the Voice of Prophecy and the Faith for Today, if they were honest and responsible, they will not be deviating from the core principles of the Seventh-day. But remember, the apostasy in the Seventh-day Adventists did not just begin in 1957, all the way in 1903 when Sister Ellen G. White was alive. And she has to issue letters upon letters warning that the religion would be changed, that men in the General Conference will be apostates, and that the voice of the General Conference will not be the voice of God. 1903, 1904, when the General Conference reorganized and registered in the United States government, for tax purposes exemption. So, friends, the pioneers were holding the brakes, yet the General Conference apostate men were trying to accelerate the gas pedal to be part of the World Council of Churches, to be part of the world, so to speak, in that early infant stage of the pioneering years. So this question is irrelevant question, yet he put this in his book, because the pioneers were not legalists. But he seemed to agree to the observation of Walter Martin that your pioneers were legalists. Correct that, so to speak. Are they not rather a bid for goodwill in a subtle attempt to draw those who enroll in your preferred Bible courses to gradually accept the doctrinal legal heart of Adventism? Is this doctrinal legalistic emphasis a reflection of the counsels of Ellen G. White? You see, this question is misleading in two fronts. Accepting that the pioneers were wrong and they were legalist, and at the same time is trying to defend them in a way that they will sound evangelical, especially Ellen G. White. You see, friends, as I've said earlier, the pioneers will never conform to any question or subtle test by the evangelicals because they do not know the Bibles during that time of the pioneers. The Bibles of those pioneers were from the King James Version Bible. And remember, during this time, the Bible was being corrupted into other versions using Codex Sinaiticus and Codex Vaticanus, which is popular in the seminaries, including among those who are leading the General Conference men and women. So the apostasy is so enshrined in the General Conference that after the death of Ellen G. White, 1957 comes now. This question is saying, oh, oh yeah, it sounded like legalistic. Remember, Leroy Edwin Fromm is not lawyering for the pioneers. He was reframing the pioneers. He was lawyering for Walter Martin so that the church could follow him and be a part of the World Council of Churches. And that had happened. I'm just looking from the from the perspective of the present, how it happened and why it happened and how it came to be. So Leroy Edwin Fromm questioned his own answer from Walter Martin as though they were talking. Remember, this book is an attempt to appease Walter Martin, Barnhouse, English, the evangelical Trinitarian Sunday keepers who had befriended him and the General Conference. And he was authorized, Leroy Edwin Fromm was authorized to answer in behalf of the church. And this is the result. In the evangelistic activities of Seventh-day Adventists, Leroy Edwin Fromm wrote, whether by means of radio programs, public service, or literature services, there is no attempt at subtlety or effort to deceive. The heart of the Advent message is Christ and Him crucified. Now remember, during this time, the not only the Seventh-day Adventist Church is being awakened, but remember the Roman Catholic Church is beginning to be empowered, be the prominent, and he is trying to gather her separated daughters or separated brethren, so to speak. And Leroy Edwin Fromm, so subtle, wants to appear like the rest of the Christian world, using Ellen G. White. May we say in a simple sincerity that Seventh-day Adventists hold that Christianity is not merely an intellectual assent to embodied doctrines, no matter how true or orthodox. We believe that Christianity is a real experience with Christ. Christianity is a relationship to a person, our blessed Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Of course, he forgot about Christ revealing his Father, the only true God. Although, if you are not aware, he is emphasizing Christ-centeredness. But remember, Christ revealed his Father, the only true God. That is the position of the pioneers. But in this writing, it seems to be evangelical in a sense that he is confusing people who are not well versed in the fundamental principles of the original Seventh-day Adventist pioneers. It is possible to know 1,000 things about Christ and yet never know him. Well, the Bible reveals that God sent his Son. That's a very clear, not a mysterious thing to know. It's clear in the Bible. If you read John 14, 15, 16, and 17, chapters 14, chapters 15, 16, and 17, you will know who Jesus Christ is and his Father. Leaves the professing Christian as far from God as is the lost sinner. Now, remember, he's juxtapositioning Christ and God as though they are one and the same. Remember, the pioneers believe that there is only one God, the Father, number one, and number two is his Son, Jesus Christ. This is not subordination. This is their principle, because you cannot just put them in one phrase like the Trinity, or one God, a unity of three co-eternal persons. This statement that putting everybody there in one sentence is confusing. It should be noted that God, our Father, is distinct. He is first. That's why Jesus said he's greater. My Father is greater than I. When Jesus opened his eyes in eternal past, he has already a Father. But his Father has no Father. Remember that. And he, Leroy Edwin Fromm, representing, lawyering, defending the Seventh-day Adventists in 1957, but trying to agree with the evangelicals that, yes, they were legalistic, the pioneers were legalistic, is as hypocritical as his saying we. He doesn't know we. If he is referring to we with the pioneers, then he will not be saying or he will not be writing what he is writing now. But he was saying we, the new Adventist, who is, and then the pioneers were just trying to be a foundation sort. Then I would say that it is not the church who deceives the evangelical. It is Leroy Edwin Fromm deceiving both Walter Martin and the pioneers, descendants and faithful adherents, the fundamental principles. So Leroy Edwin Fromm is a double agent of Rome, and agent for the Seventh-day Adventists. Pick your battle, so to speak. Definitely believe in doctrine. I don't think that the pioneers agree with his, if he means doctrine as church creed requirement. The pioneers did not believe in doctrine as creed. They believe in the principle, meaning unchangeable truth. Doctrine is what man is teaching other men. Fundamental principle is what the Bible teaches, using man as its speaker, as its expositor, not to deviate from the plain language of the Bible. Remember, doctrine, for example, Trinity is not from the Bible. And Leroy Edwin Fromm says, we Adventists believe definitely in doctrine. They did not believe in Trinity. So how could that be a doctrine? They believe in the Bible, revelation of one true God and his Son, John 17:3, 1 Corinthians 8:6, Psalm 139, verse 7. We hold a unified body of biblical truth. Well, that is not true in 1957 all the way to 1980, because there is an effort to move the church doctrine, or the church teaching, to the doctrine of the Trinity. This was not accepted until 1980. Remember that. But that which saves is grace alone through faith in the living Christ. And similarly, that which justified is free and blessed grace. We likewise believe in works and in full obedience to the will and commandments of God. But the works in which we believe and that we seek to perform are the result or fruits of salvation, not a means of salvation in whole or in part. And the obedience that we render is the loving response of a life that is saved by grace. Leroy Edwin Fromm should have answered that the pioneers were not legalistic. That's it. It could have been more simpler. It could have been straight and direct. But he has the audacity to defend lawyer for the evangelical Walter Martin. So what he is writing here, salvation is never. The pioneers understood and did not teach salvation by work like the Jews or Pharisees. So he made an effort. Leroy Edwin Fromm made an effort in doing so, to emphasize that they are not tricking people to believe and then become legalistic. No, it is apparent to me, at least in my understanding of this reading, that Leroy Edwin Fromm was hypocritical and he is playing double agency. So he is the one tricking Walter Martin and tricking the members to believe that yes, the church is in conformity to evangelicals, yet being distinct, and the legalistic part was only on the pioneer side. The present SDA is never, or is not, legalistic. My point being is that the pioneers, even until now, if you are true to the Bible, regardless of the accusations of the evangelical or the Protestant or even the Roman Catholic churches, it will not matter. We obey. Obedience is not legalistic. But you see how the strange explanation, twisted explanation of Leroy Edwin Fromm trapped the church to believe in the Trinity at the end. You see how the spider web of lies of Leroy Edwin Fromm is clearly seen here, lawyering for the pioneers, yet making them look like legalists. We repeat, this emphasis, according to him, is not something subtle as suggested in the question. He asked the question, and he is answering that question with his own, using piecemeal quotations from Ellen G. White. When you go further before this and also further down, there's a lot of in the pages I'm saying, there's a lot of quotations here from Ellen G. White as he is trying to reframe everything so that the doctrine and Trinity could come in. It's not a lure trick, according to him, or bait. It is instead a serious endeavor to put things definitively first in our public presentations, to let the world see and hear and know that the heart of Adventism is Christ and his salvation. You know who tricked? What is the trick here? And what is the deception, the lies, and the bait? Telling the evangelicals, you know what? We are not there. We will be there. We will be Trinitarians soon. Wait for it. We are Trinitarians now, but wait for it. That is the trick of Leroy Edwin Fromm, because eventually that is, this is what I'm saying, that using the piecemeal quotations of Ellen G. White. In context, Ellen G. White was never Trinitarian. She was never a believer or in agreement with Leroy Edwin Fromm's theories or views, in my estimation, my understanding right now. So, friends, please read this for yourself and critique it, because this is the most divisive book in 1957. And I could call it The Entrance of the Trojan Horse, the Athanasian Creed coming in the Seventh-day Adventist Church. May God our Father may bless you, and his only begotten divine Son, Jesus Christ, be gracious to you now and forevermore. Amen.